Crystal, you're back. Welcome.
Back.
You brought a friend.
And meet Ross.
Hi, Ross. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. Hey, good. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm glad she brought you. You're an MSP, right?
Yeah, we're a mid-sized dental-focused MSP. Just so everyone knows where I'm coming from, a little over 2,000 assets under management at any given time. Right now, currently, that's spread over several hundred clients and about 5 states. So we're a little bit
really cool.
larger geographically than some other MSPs of that size, but that's just because we're a single vertical. We don't do generalized IT.
Sure.
But that's me.
So I gotta say that is you're incredibly specific, and I love that. So I've got to ask my first question to you. Syncro on 2,000 devices? Like, I'm sorry, I'm still not there yet, man. So, I feel like Syncro, like maybe 250 devices, and then at that point you got to you got to expand and get a big boy platform like Datto or ConnectWise, right?
Well, we were with Kaseya for a long time. We were with Autotask for a long time. And we landed where we are because much like probably most of the mid-size MSPs out there, my biggest problem with Autotask and Datto and ConnectWise over the years was they're super big products and they flex really heavy in some areas, but I can't ever get anybody on the phone if I want a feature fixed, or I can't get any traction if I really, 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 really need something to change. And I'm not gonna pontificate at great length about what I didn't like about those platforms specifically, but I went from Kaseya over to ConnectWise and then we launched Autotask as our main PSA because I was always missing something. There was always something that wasn't right, and you're always searching for that unicorn of a product that solves all your problems and just makes everything that you do every day easier. And I think a little bit of that is you don't get there. The great thing about finding Syncro was I was able to check all the boxes that I was already checking, and then add the flexibility, the functionality, the communication, the relationship with a company that I can actually grow with, that I can actually talk to about what my concerns are, that I can actually see development things dropping because I mentioned it maybe a couple months ago or maybe even a week ago or whatever. That felt a lot better for us. Even with 2,000 assets, than me asking my Autotask rep the same thing quarter after quarter after quarter. Can you please fix this? And every quarter it was the same excuse. Oh yeah, I'll bring it up in the meeting. Cool, thanks, man. So
I gotta ask, do you think he ever brought it up in the meeting?
No, I don't.
Just genuinely curious what your thoughts are on that.
And even if he did, maybe he was doing his job and passing that along, that request, and filling out the whole form and whatever. The problem is they're so big, it doesn't matter. They don't really care, and that's not I mean, I don't know anything about their culture. I don't know anything about the way they run their business or whatever. But there's a certain point where you grow past individualized customer care. There is. I mean, everyone knows that. You grow unless you're Amazon and you have friggin' mastered the ability to touch individuals while simultaneously, conquering the world. But most companies will outgrow that customer service that really, in my opinion, business to business is really important, especially from a tool that you use every single day to leverage your skills to get to your customers.
And, I want to say that, I know a guy who he is on the what do they call it? The user board or the product development board. Well, he's an MSP and he's got Datto's ear, you know?
Right.
So,
right.
so I think it's really cool. Like, you know, the people that get to join those boards, where they get some input on the direction of the product, like that's really cool. And those people are listened to. And this guy's said to me in the past, oh, you know, hey, Steve, drop my name. If they're not getting something done for you, just drop my name and they'll make it happen now. And that's really cool that, you know, I know a guy that can get things done, but why do I have to know a guy to get things done? Like, why can't I just go to Datto and get things done?
Right.
So, and to clarify, I'm not a Datto customer. I just wanted to pick on Datto for a minute. In the past, my experiences have been pleasant with them. I don't have any major issues with Datto. I like their product. I think it's very pretty.
I think they make fantastic products.
Yeah. But we're here right now to talk about Syncro. So let's talk about Syncro. I'm gonna get a little crazy. I'm gonna share my screen here. Yeah, I'm that guy. I share my screen of my Syncro. Hey, it's Crystal at Syncro. Your trial expires soon. Hey, Crystal, I think we should talk. Should we schedule a quick call?
Just a quick call.
Yeah.
How do I make it go away? Oh, there's an X. I didn't even see the X. Okay, so I have a ticket.
And I added another 30 days to your trial.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, I just keep doing these videos. I'll never have to pay. All right. So with that said, full disclosure, right now I'm running on a trial. Crystal is extending the trial for me as I continue to do these videos. So that is the extent of the perks or payouts or whatever you want to call it as far as me doing these videos, guys. But, you know, I'm going to say that this is not like sponsored by Syncro. You see me beat Crystal up enough already to hopefully believe me when I say that. So I now have things here, like you can tell I'm actually doing stuff now, right? So we can now celebrate my success in using Syncro. My average first response time is 2 hours. That's super not great. However, my average time to resolution,
what your SLAs are.
34 seconds. So to be fair, it's only 2 tickets. So so when I look at this, like the thing that I find is, you know, I feel like I'm just kind of ready to use it. Like, as you can tell, I'm using it. Not very much, but, you know, I put a couple tickets in here, one for something I was working on and one for a client of mine. I was doing some design work for them. And it just, you know, it worked. It worked fine. I didn't feel like anything was like misconfigured. I didn't feel like I had to go and spend a whole bunch of time in the settings. Like what you guys saw me do in the last video on the day one with Syncro is literally all of the admin stuff I've done on it. So Ross, I've got an hour and a half on setting up Syncro and then, you know, maybe another few hours just tooling around in it. So I've got some assets. And as you can see, other than my company, I'm doing my best to keep these somewhat sanitized so that way I don't have to go and do a whole bunch of post-production on this later. I know that I can, you know, hover. I think I hover over this. I click on it, and then this pops up, and then I can, you know, look at things and do stuff. So, you know, I'm good there. I see I pushed this out to this guy. I actually said, hey, I sent him an email. I said, hey, do me a favor and run this on all your computers. And he called me. He's like, hey, did you actually send me an email? And I was proud of him. He didn't just run the thing. So, you gotta be impressed with your end users every now and then. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
A couple hours and it's already deployed like the antivirus for me and everything. So I'm really satisfied with the speed in which things get like deployed out. I'm really satisfied with the ease when I send somebody the MSI. It seems to be just a completely unintended silent installer, so I don't have to worry about them clicking next and selecting things and logging. It just works. So yeah, I'm just super pleased with this. Now I'll say that I went through and I want to say it's in policies. I played in here for a while, and so I've got like this policy. And I feel like there's so much more I should be able to do. Like, not that I don't feel like it's able to do it. I just feel like I should have set more up. It just seemed too easy, Ross. Set up scripts and script schedules. Like, I sit here and I wonder, like, I'm trying to think outside the box. Do you have anything in these sections? Like what?
Yeah, so policies is one of those areas where we're pretty unique because of the fact that we do operate in a single vertical. So all of my clients are going to live pretty safely in kind of a medical software space, right? So, so I'm not worried about applying a policy to a law firm or whatnot, because I know what my interferences are going to be. I know what my software is going to do when it gets deployed. So we have policies. We have policies in place for all the different types of assets that we typically run across, and we use both setup scripts and scripting schedules. So setup scripting we use pretty heavily, mostly with PowerShell to kind of handle those onboarding tasks. So if we add a new client or we're adding a new workstation, it's going to go through, kind of change all those baseline settings for us. It's going to drop my AV. It's going to drop some of the other security products that we have. It's going to go through kind of an initial alert check. So, and then we have it, we even have it do things depending on the OS. We have it set up the backup software. We have it configure, the reporting for that. And then most of those high level things then get turned into schedules thereafter. So, for instance, every machine that we have that has the RMM, I want to make sure that someone's not going behind and removing any of those things that we set up. So we're doing automatic checks through PowerShell for all of our security tools for our backup products. Once again, depending on the OS, depending on sometimes the model of the machine, I know that I want those machines to have our backup software. I know I want it to be running. So, and even sometimes as unique as like what software is there. So if a computer has QuickBooks on it, I know that I should have backup on that machine. And then if I don't, we have automated remediation set up to create an alert for that, to kick out a ticket to our team and say, hey guys, this is a QuickBooks machine. For some reason, I'm not detecting backup software on here. Please check this out. So I think the policies, as far as doing your diligence as an MSP, the policies, scripting, alerts, and automated remediation is that's going to be not the bulk of your time, because I'm a money guy. So I think you should really start with invoicing and contracts and all that. But you should spend quite a bit of time tweaking and exploring your capabilities here within your policies, your automated remediations, and your alerts, because that's your bread and butter for reducing overhead, reducing tickets that you don't need to be working on, and bringing those high-level things to the surface as quickly as possible.
Very good. So I know when I come into scripts, this has got to be like my favorite part of of Syncro, I can just, pop in here to this community script library, and they've already got a boatload of scripts in here. So did
Right.
you find yourselves maybe not relying solely on their script library, but did you find yourselves using anything from the script library?
Oh yeah, I've kind of Frankensteined quite a few things out of here. There's some really good install scripts built in there for several different versions of operating systems that that we definitely took, retooled for our purposes, and then used it, within our policies. There's some license scripts in there that'll tell you about, Office 365 and what version may be installed. I'm just going off the cuff here, trying to remember things that I've stolen over the
Sure.
years. There's some, let me see, there are some software version check, like very specific software version check PowerShells in there where I need to know, like I can find the software, but I need to know specifically what iteration of, was installed, and you can run this script and it reports back, and I can create an alert based on that. There's simple things like a really robust shutdown or power cycle script in here if you're really needing to make sure that something goes through a hard shut on the weekends or something like that. There's I'm watching as you're scrolling here.
This
Oh, that
onboarding.
Shodan lookup is pretty crazy too.
Yeah.
But you gotta you have to play with it a little bit, but that's pretty cool. Yeah. Some of these, so the other thing about some of these is PowerShelling and scripting. A lot of MSPs won't think about it because most of us that get into this space are techie first, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people forget that your RMM can be a sales tool, right? So you walk in the door and you say, hey, I'm going to be here for 30 minutes. Do you mind if I drop this tool on a couple machines? And then we talk about the results that it gets, at the end of our time as we walk around, and you explain to me, how you run your business or whatever. Sure. Yeah, no problem. Okay, cool. You can set a whole bunch of scripts in there to check all sorts of things. And then when you get done, pull your report or pull your remediation or your alerts or whatever, and use that as a sales tool. So the Shodan thing caught my eye because we use a tool that does some dark web checking. We've also done some stuff with Huntress, but if you run that stuff while you're in a potential client's office, and then you're able to show them before you walk out the door, because you can just drop your RMM and everything is automated, so it feels really organic. You can really close some sales just by showing, hey, we've got these tools at our fingertips. This is the type of stuff you're currently missing out on. This is the type of stuff that maybe your current provider is not doing for you, or if you don't have a current provider, these are the types of things that you're not being protected from right now. And these are some gaps that we can fill for you as far as security goes, or whatever. You've got this much wasted disk space. These haven't been turned off in 50 days. It just depends on what vertical you're in and what you think is going to sell people.
Gotcha. I've never seen such a complex restart script. Like shutdown -R, guy. Come on. No, obviously,
yeah,
there's some pretty heavy.
There's some pretty heavy. Yeah, there's some pretty heavy ones in there for sure.
No, that's really cool. And honestly, I never would have thought to look for a restart script, because it's got restart built into Syncro. I think just click a button and it restarts. But obviously, there have been times where that doesn't work, or the system hangs during restart.
Right. Or depending on the vertical that you work in, a restart, I have a specific example of where we've used some pretty sophisticated restart scripts. So we've got a synchronous multi-site SQL database that has to be shut down perfectly or the synchronization breaks every time, right? So if someone inadvertently shuts down, server A, I need, no matter what, for the SQL servers at the other sites to at minimum go through a power cycle. Not the whole server, but that SQL has to come offline and come back up just so site B and C can keep syncing. That's where we got into the really complex shutdown scripts, because you don't want someone just going in and clicking restart, because
Sure.
you've got some software requirements that no one's thinking about. Oh, Windows will just shut down. Yeah, and then everything's broken, so.
Now, do you also have like checks and remediation where if something doesn't look right on the SQL or there's a specific error in the event viewer, to automatically run this script to do like that full restart?
Yeah, so like I said, we're a little lucky in that regard, because we work mainly in one sector. We're able to build out a lot of really sophisticated, specific remediation tasks. So if out of the box software 1 creates alert 2275 in the event viewer, I know what that means. I know that it means that the database hung, and if you run this script, you'll restart the database and the workstations will reconnect or whatever. So we're able to do quite a lot of that. And I'm only speaking from my experience. We're in this space, and that's what we're able to do. If you work with lawyers all day, you may say the same thing, like, oh yeah, most of the software is the same way. We can probably do that too. The RMM and everything that it's checking all the time gives us a lot of that minute, really detailed capability to keep track of those proprietary softwares, because we can watch. And especially the ability to use PowerShell so intricately. You can use PowerShell to report, certain calls back to Syncro. So even if there's not a specific event viewer alert or whatever, you can watch a log file for a certain response and do the same thing. You can kick off an automated remediation. So we do a little bit of that for some very proprietary programs that don't report to Windows because they're awesome. But yeah, your RMM, like I said, your RMM is it's your bread and butter as far as saving you time. You've got to spend some very focused days, weeks, months, however big your span is. You've got to spend some quality time developing processes, developing workflows, developing remediations, deciding what your alerts are going to be. Some of that may be, depending on how young your MSP is or how old it is, some of that may be trial and error. You may have to let a couple of months of tickets come in and then say, gosh, you know what? We deal with a lot of stupid printer tickets. How about we just restart all the spoolers at 6 a.m. every day? Or how about we just, anytime a printer locks up or whatever, just kick off this script, and then maybe the client never calls. Maybe they just click print again and it comes through and they go, oh, look, it's printing now. Cool. Little tweaks like that. Long term in this business, the more you can automate, the less time you spend paying employees. And that's not that paying employees is bad, but you want your high value, you want your technicians that you're paying, top dollar to do top dollar things, not to reboot computers and fix printers all day.
That, man, you've literally taken everything that I've been trying to explain to MSPs for years, and you just said it so perfectly. Love it, man. Love it.
I was just gonna Steve, can I interject for a second? I just thought if you go back to your policy, I thought it would be worth mentioning just for the folks that are watching, because you're spot on. Everything that Ross just said is everything that every MSP needs to hear and know that it's available. And when you're looking at a policy, this is exactly where I wanted you to go. If you process and service monitoring, because yes, you can do a lot of things with PowerShell scripts and that kind of thing, check for this, then if it's not running, do this, that, or the other. So you can build these organically within the policy as well. So depending on what it is, you can check to make sure something's running at all times. Like, there's been a couple things mentioned. If it's a machine that should always have QuickBooks running, you can have this monitor check to make sure. And if it's not running, you have it then start it back up. And if you scroll, I guess actually you can kind of see it. So you can also save this monitor from here and create an automation straight from this screen. So if you then want certain things to create tickets, or because you can monitor the CPU and resource usage as well for certain processes or services. So there are so many automations you can set up just from here when it comes to process and service monitoring. And then just to speak very quickly to monitoring event log alerts as well from the policy, we give you some presets there, but anything additional, like Ross mentioned, if there is something that always reports to the Windows event log, this is the thing you're looking for, you can set up that alert, and within that alert you can set up an automation to do whatever you want with it. So a lot of this can just be done, and this is that power of spending some time in the policy and going through all of the nooks and crannies and just making sure all of those things that you think about, that you get phone calls every day or alerts come in and you do this, that, and then this. Just taking some time to set up those automations I think is really, really important. There, you're writing one right now. I love it.
Done. I'm sure there's a much more complex way you can do this too, right, Ross?
If you need to, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. I'm sure I could do almost the exact same thing with about 350 lines of code. And
that's right.
I'm sure that one would never fail. But
that's right. All the full stack guys out there just had an aneurysm.
Hey, this is just this is just for me screwing around here, though.
The other thing that I thought of while you were just kind of going through that policy is, I think that one of the great things about policies in the application, first of all, it's super easy to apply policies to different assets, right? So if you're on the asset tab and you're looking, you're sorting through everything, you can just see, okay, what is applied to what, and how many assets do I have on this policy, and do I need to switch this one for a certain amount of time? Or one of the great things that we've kind of toyed with over the years is, you can, if you have a client that you don't want to baseline, if you have a client that you want to get really, really granular with because maybe they have just a really unique setup, like we've got some clients that run in-house labs and they've got in-house mills and there's all sorts of crazy intricate little not run of the not your generalized equipment setup. We've just built custom policies specifically for them, and then when you add their assets, you just go over and you apply that policy only for them. And that way you don't have to worry about, as you're developing this or as you're working through this, how is this going to apply to 2,000 computers? Well, it doesn't matter because I'm just building this for, Dr. A or, customer so-and-so.
So the one question
just another way to look at it.
The one question I have as I build this, so service name, is this, I never know what to call it. Is this the short name that you would use in the command prompt that you want to put here?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
If you were calling it from command prompt, that's the one.
Okay. So I wouldn't want to put like print spooler. Spooler is what I should put. Since if I wanted to restart the spooler, I could do net stop spooler, net start spooler. Okay.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure I'm, doing it right.
Well, and so everyone does, right? Everyone tests their stuff before they go live with it, always.
They do?
Right?
Yeah, I mean, they do.
Absolutely. So
I do. I tested on all 2,000 endpoints at once. It's the best way to provide results.
Now I've got a ton of data telling me what I did wrong.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I was going to say. The other thing that is nice is when you get done running a policy or when you get done running a script, you can see the feedback from if you go to the asset or if you go to the policy, you can see when it was last run, what it was applied to. And oftentimes, like, we'll have a couple times a year, like the AV vendor will change some random piece of their installer. So when we update, the MSI or the executable, it just won't work anymore. We've got to go through and tweak it. Well, we can see that because you can go and you can look at scripts, system checks. You can go to the scripts tab and you can see, okay, what last ran and was it successful or did it fail? And if it failed, then you can see the output. So you can go and say, okay, like, what happened here? And it'll give you, basically the full output, just as if you would run it on the machine. And that way you can tell, okay, I see, the call's not working right here, or this version's not matching up, or PowerShell version whatever is required on this machine, and now we're going to have to make sure when we run this from now on that first we check for PowerShell and we install that first. If it's not, like, I'm thinking specifically, we had one that required a certain version of .NET, and it half of them weren't installing, and then we looked at the output and saw, okay, .NET whatever is required. So then next time we wrote it, it was, okay, check and install .NET version whatnot, and then proceed with the rest of this script or the rest of this, alert or whatnot. So that's kind of a handy feature too, that we use pretty heavily.
Very cool. All right. So when I look at this particular desktop, you can see that they're using the latest, greatest, most advanced technology on this computer, right? Looking
Absolutely.
At the screenshot. Yeah.
That is high speed.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think a sixth grader made it. So anyway, when I look at this computer, okay, so yeah, MCSoft anti-malware was just installed 15 days ago. I must have, by chance, clicked on the one computer that I actually set up for them a while ago. Because that doesn't make sense since I... All right, so does this one have MCSoft? Here's where I get to play the game. Still pending. Okay, so obviously I kept picking the one machine that I literally installed 2 weeks ago for them. This one is one that they just deployed today. So that makes a lot more sense. I was really excited. I was like, wow, cool. So I deployed this today, but it has all this recent activity. Like, it looked in the event viewer or something. I was about to, like, high-five you, Crystal, so hard. Now I just need to high-five myself in the face. So Windows patches, 164. There's only 164 patches that need installed. Holy crap.
Not bad.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, I don't know what you would do, but I would just click this install available patches button. I wouldn't really do any due diligence on the KB articles or anything like that. I would just click the button. It seems like the right thing to do.
Totally.
I'm glad you're having fun over there, Crystal. So when I look at, the one thing because there's so many in here, Crystal, I wish I could, like, click on this category and, like, sort by, or I wish there was a filter. I'm sure if I go somewhere else, and by sure, I mean pretty sure, that I could go somewhere else to find a list of patches that need to be done for, like, all computers, maybe, and then sort and filter.
Yeah, if you go to reports, there's two different Windows reports that'll show you kind of in a different way. So you've got in the RMM section. Let's move it. Sorry, my eyes lost it. Yep, right there. You've got vulnerable systems and vulnerable patches, both of those. So I believe I wanted to see if you can, so this is just going to be by this is just going to be by KB number. So you can, it's not going to, I don't think this one is going to filter by category.
Well, this is crazy because, I mean, this can't be more than, we'll say 50. There can't be more than 50 KBs here.
And then that one just showed 136 or something.
Yeah. 164. Maybe all of them don't have. Yeah, some of them don't have KBs, which would explain.
Right.
Drivers, software updates. Yeah.
But it's not that many. So, I mean, okay, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of the 164.
I'm curious, if you go to the report that says vulnerable systems instead of the vulnerable patches, I want to see what that one looks like with this machine. Yeah, so it does show 164. And it does show the different categories. Interesting. If you click on the actual asset, so this report does by categories. It's the other one that doesn't do it by categories. So if you had to go through and for that one that has 164, update all like the critical or security updates, you could do it from that report. Do you use this often, Ross?
Mostly when we know that something is going to screw everything up.
Yeah.
Because we use so much similar or exactly the same software, we know if one of our vendors releases this KB breaks everything update, then we like to go in here, find out which ones already have it so we can start rolling it back, because I think we do like a 2-week delay or even a 30-day delay sometimes, because unfortunately some of those updates that get dropped, if it breaks one thing for us, it's going to break it on potentially 1,000 or 1,500 computers, because a lot of people have the same software. So always a little scary to run those right away, but the vendors are fairly good about keeping us informed of that stuff. So
we actually started, if you go to the assets and RMM screen, the last time there was a patch that went out that caused a ton of issues, we actually created a saved asset search specific for that KB, so you could just go and run the saved asset search. But yeah, from there, just organically, if you hit new search, you can, like, if you found, if there was a KB that was rolled out that you needed to maybe run a script to uninstall, for example, or roll it back, you can search for KBs from here specifically too.
Right.
So like, I think it's Windows crypto API spoofing vulnerability. There, you could just create that save. So what we've been doing is, if we do hear of anything like that, we're just basically backfilling this saved asset search to just provide that for you and take out the guesswork.
Very cool. And then you could get real crazy, and like, if you know for a fact that KB or patch or whatever you want to call it causes a problem on like 99% of your machines, then you could even create a remediation script to get rid of that on the machine if it's found just based on a search.
Yep. Yeah, we've done that with certain versions of Adobe over the years, because it causes issues with reporting in a lot of our softwares. So
I'm learning. I'm assuming that successful MSPs, when setting up their RMM tool, like they typically have a plan, right? You don't.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I
don't just
think that
open this up
think
and you don't just open this up and hope for the best, or just stumble your way into success. Like you have to have a plan going in. Like, all right, I know about all of this stuff, so I need to configure all of this stuff and make all of this stuff work. And by all of this stuff, it could be I want to make sure I've got scripts to deploy all of my specific software that our MSP uses, or I know of these event IDs that we should be looking out for with some of the proprietary software that our clients use. Like that, I mean, you should have like a list of here are the actionable items that need to be taken care of first, right?
Well, I think the easiest place to start in that regard, other than a nice, high quality planning session, is you've got to look at your contract, right? That's a great place to start when you're building out your RMM, because if you're looking at your contracts and what you're promising your clients that you're going to do, what you're promising them you're going to provide as far as downtime alerts, as far as, security software, if you just read through that document that you've put your name on, and you can kind of tally everything down on a list that you can solve with your RMM tool, then that's a really great place to start. Because at a minimum, when you drop that tool, you know that you're checking all of those legal boxes so that you don't find yourself on a Sunday afternoon with an angry client calling you saying, hey, my server's offline and the building's on fire. Why didn't you call me? Well, because I didn't get an alert from that machine because I didn't have the proper, alert built out, or whatever.
I think my answer would have been, well, I'm not there, man. I don't know your building's on fire. Like, why didn't you call me? Phone works both ways, man.
Yeah.
Now, I have concerns about one of the things you said at the beginning of all this, though. You said you should review your contract.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean,
so what if hypothetically, obviously, what if you don't have a contract, Ross, with your clients, and you just
then don't spend any time setting up the RMM. You're wasting your time. Just worry about invoices and ticketing, because if you're not legally bound to anything, then it doesn't really matter what the RMM does.
Well, okay, so hear me out though. I'm going to stare off the share because this is going to be just fun for people to watch your faces. Okay, so, I'm not legally bound is one way of looking at it, or there's no limitation to the amount of liability somebody can hold me to is possibly another way we could look at it, right?
For sure.
So
yeah,
without
a contract is protection for both parties. That's the whole point.
Yeah, so without a contract, I mean, an MSP, if they just do handshake deals, or maybe not even handshake deals, they're just like, yeah, just here's an invoice, I'll take care of you. Like, without something to set expectations, the client can kind of make up their expectations as they go.
For sure.
Which means
you're
they
going to have to
you
decide whenever they want for anything.
Yeah, literally. Well, you didn't come polish my computer tower. What?
Yeah, I thought I signed up for the maintenance plan. You didn't vacuum it out last week.
Oh my gosh. So I gotta ask, do you have any clients that you have anybody go on site and physically clean anything?
No.
I just genuinely
now
curious.
we've been asked. That's why I brought it up. But that's the beauty of a contract. If they read the contract, which you can easily direct them to, and say, no, maintenance if you look under the maintenance tab there, section 2A, whatever, you'll see that maintenance stipulates that we will maintain the patching of the computer, we'll maintain the software updating, we'll maintain the security software, so on and so forth. It's not physical. I'm not going to come and wipe it down and make sure you didn't kick it over last week. But all joking aside, even if you don't have a contract, which I know obviously you need it bad, you've got to have an understanding of what it is you're providing in this business one way or another. You have to know, what they expect of you. And if you're not articulating that on the front end, then you've at least got to know what you're expecting to provide. There's no reason to use a PSA or an RMM tool if you don't have a set of standards that you're adhering to. It's worthless.
At that point, just have ConnectWise control and remotely connect when somebody calls and complains.
Yeah, it's just break fix and no big deal. It's an 800 number and a fix-it shop. That's it. And speaking of documentation and contracts, and I think that you can't get through week 1 at Syncro without, like I said, I'm a money guy, without focusing on your contracts, without focusing on your SLAs, without focusing on your labor rates and your overrides and your invoicing, because I think that's where your bread and butter is. You poked fun at the young MSP there and how naive some guys are that get into this, but I think one of the big things that comes with this type of person is a lot of us are bad at getting paid, right? And the only thing,
even some of us that actually have the SLAs and the contracts are still bad at getting paid. Because some of us are great at setting up all this stuff, but are afraid to actually go to that next step. Like, some people are just afraid of a customer getting mad and not paying ever, so they just get walked all over.
Yep.
I've seen it happen. It's unfortunate.
Absolutely. The best way to protect yourself from your own fears is to automate it. Just as much time as you put into the RMM and your alerts and all of the techie stuff that gets you all hyped up and so excited, put that much time and effort, if not more, into protecting your business and in protecting your cash flow, right? You set up a new client, the number one thing you should concern yourself with is whether or not you're going to get paid. You got to go in there, you've got to set your labor rate, you've got to set your contract rates, you've got to set your automated invoice, you've got to set that billing method up, you've got to set, when it's going to be paid. You've got to go through all those steps and get that knocked out. That way, every month on the 30th or the 1st or however you choose to do your billing, that customer's getting billed. You have to do that. There's no point in being in business if you're not going to get paid. So for us, one of the huge leverage factors with switching to Syncro was it all of a sudden became very, very, very easy for me to accomplish 2 tasks. One, to sell things, right, because of the estimates and invoices module and how smooth and how fluid and how amazing it is. And 2, the ability to take those invoices and easily and immediately turn them into real cash. There's nothing better than doing your job and then immediately having a way to get paid, right?
That's nice.
So I think that's when you open this up and you go to set up, you're working through your first week of Syncro, you've got to spend time making sure that you're going to get paid. And if you want to talk about one of the most high leverage areas of this program, it's the money mechanism. And there's a reason, right, Crystal? The whole basis, the whole history of the company is in a brick and mortar institution. They know how to take money, right? And there's a lot of weakness in the PSA RMM space because it's software for software guys built on software about software for software people. And it's like, yeah, but you gotta have a way to collect money, And if they brought all this brick and mortar experience over to this PSA platform, and it seems so organic and it makes sense and it does all these great things, and you can have receipts and automatic invoices and PDFs and estimates that automatically convert. Because if you run a brick and mortar business, right, anyone who's ever worked in a real break fix shop knows that you don't let somebody walk out the door with a computer unless they swipe that credit card,
Oh,
I mean, so us MSP guys get stuck in that awkward, like, we're not there every time we need to bill somebody. Well, this fixes that. You set all that up, and now every month everything just gets billed and everyone gets their receipt and you keep moving, So
I think the other thing too is I think what you're speaking to is the fact that when MSPs are just starting out, or really kind of, it doesn't really matter actually, but a lot of times it starts with a technician that all of a sudden realizes he has a business or she has a business. And then it's like, okay, I know how to do all the technical stuff, but now what do I do? And, one of the things with Syncro specifically is, we've said it before, but it's an MSP tool built by MSPs. So we have several people on the team that started as a repair shop. And like Ian, for example, repaired computer after computer and didn't want to do that manually anymore. And then you have Troy that had his own repair shop and built Repair Shopper and then evolved that into Syncro. So it's done with that same mindset of, hey, the technical stuff I get, like I can do all of this stuff. I can automate this stuff. I know how to do that. And then where Syncro does stand alone, in my opinion, is just the ability to make it so much easier for people to make money. That's the thing. It's like, it's got to just be as easy as possible, because honestly, for the most part, wherever you are in your journey, if you're just starting out, a lot of times invoicing is not the first thing on your mind when you're thinking about looking at a new tool. And like Ross said, it should be. Like, it absolutely should be.
It really should. Because the last thing you want to do is, get to a size where it's going to take you days to do invoicing because you decided, well, I'm going to save $35 a month because I'm going to go with tool A instead of tool B. But tool B, it would have been like a 2-hour process to do invoicing. Like sometimes people make such short-sighted decisions when picking out their tools. And I understand that sometimes money really is tight. But if money is so tight that you can't afford the right tool, I don't know that getting the wrong tool is the right decision. I think selling another contract or two is the thing to do in order to get the right tool.
Yep. Because you're stepping into, the tool, just like with any job, even if you're talking about, from a philosophical standpoint, even if you're talking about repairing computers, right? Everyone knows that everyone has that little toolkit of the little products that they've used, and they've picked their favorites over decades of doing this. Well, you have all those things because they save you time, right? And if you're walking in and you need to recover a RAID on a server and it's production level and all, I have all my favorite stuff that I want to use in that situation. And I don't even have to think about it. I just walk in the door and that's what I'm going to use when I do that. I got there because for years, it took me 6 or 7 hours to struggle and claw and gut my way through those situations. And finally, I got to a point where, okay, I'm going to buy this $700 software that's going to do this for me next time, so I don't have to live through this, through the stress of trying to fix all this myself. Well, you make that decision because it saves you time, because walking in and out of that office in an hour is a heck of a lot more comfortable for everybody involved if you've got the right tool. When it comes to running your business, you've got to be thinking in the exact same vein. Right? If what I'm good at is fixing computers, then as much of the rest of this entire enterprise that I can offload to a product, I have to do that. That's something that I have to invest in, right? And if the tool is good enough, it will allow you to do that. You don't have to hire a front office manager to run your QuickBooks because you don't understand QuickBooks. I hate QuickBooks. It's the most convoluted, pile of whatever. And Syncro takes care of.
Man, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's fantastic. I love updating it every year, no matter what, even though I get nothing more out of it. No, but
that's your problem. You're not using QuickBooks Online.
You're right. You're right. I love also using QuickBooks Online and everything taking 15 years to process. That's my favorite part about QuickBooks Online. But you have to spend the time with this tool setting up how to get paid. And the most I talked about getting billing and everything set up, which we didn't deep dive or anything, but the other thing that makes this tool highly leverageable is the estimate module, because being able to work within your own software, build out your own your own high volumes inventory items and immediately estimate those to clients. Once again, I feel like, I don't know this, I didn't know them back in the repair shopper days, but I feel like that is so smooth and so fluid and so well polished because of probably that brick and mortar frame that they brought it from. But I can put together an estimate on the phone with a client and email it to them immediately, get them to sign it, and already be ordering the equipment before I hang up the phone, basically. And because I have billing set up, I can charge them for it right there. So I don't have to worry about, remember when I give that computer to Tom to charge him for it? Yeah, don't do that, because you won't. And then you'll be out $1,200 because you ordered it and you've already spent your business's money on it. And now you've delivered the product and you haven't got paid yet. Don't do that. Take the time.
I would never even order a computer without somebody paying me for it. But,
well, yeah, but if you don't have billing set up,
it happens all the time.
For sure.
Yeah, see, and I think that's the part that blows my mind is even without billing set up, like even if I'm just sending somebody an email that says, here's how much you owe me, like literally just in the body of the email, like I demanded day one of my company being started, I demanded payment up front for all hardware being purchased, because I'm not a freaking bank. This is not the bank of Steve. If you want credit, go talk to American Express. I take it. I prefer Visa or MasterCard. It's cheaper, but I'll take your American Express if that makes you happy. So.
Yeah, I mean, we have and you've got to decide that depending on the size of your business, but I mean, we have once again, talking about the leverage available in the product, like in our estimates, we have some verbiage at the bottom, and it clearly states if this estimate comes back signed and the total dollar amount is less than $5,000, then you're paying it today, because I'm going to order the equipment. Now, if it's over 5,000 and it's more of a project feel or whatever, then we take a percentage, right? And that's protection for both of us. That's a decision we made after being in business for 20 years, but it's a little easier on the back end to adjust for, we added a couple monitors, or we didn't need that machine, or maybe this mount or whatever. Okay, cool. Now I can adjust within that 20% and not have to, give you a refund or write you a new invoice. But if it's less than $5,000, I'm taking it now, and I can do that because we already have everything set up. And the client knows too, it's comfortable for them. That's the thing about business that a lot of young MSPs don't understand, is that people want to pay their bills. It's uncomfortable for you to ask for money, but it doesn't mean people don't want to pay their bills. People like paying their bills, especially other people in business. Think about how concerned you are about paying, ConnectWise or whatever. That may be a really bad example, but you want to pay your bills. All those other business owners that you're talking to, or private, depending on if maybe people do home service or whatever. If that's who you're servicing, they want to pay their bills. So set it up so that you can get that money from them. I hate to harp on the money thing, but that's something I know that a lot of IT people, because of personality, struggle with, and I want you to get paid.
Yeah, you're not harping, man. I think you're doing everyone watching this a service. All right, so let's look at this. Let's try and accomplish a couple more things before we wrap this up. So I don't know if you saw earlier, I did set up an SLA. That was so easy, I didn't feel like I needed to ask you if I did it right. Now, the contract is a little more confusing, because I feel like a contract is something that's already done. It's set in stone. Why is it asking me the likelihood of closing or an estimate. Like, Crystal, can you elaborate on this?
Sorry, go ahead, Crystal.
Sure. Yeah. I think that I think there might be just like a verbiage difference. I think for the most part, when you think of contract, you're thinking of like, this is what I'm handing my customer, they're signing for it. And then you go back and you do your thing. Whereas I think within Syncro, there's like a couple different use cases for contracts. So our idea of a contract, and this is again, very interesting when you come from like something like ConnectWise, because our contracts are so opposite of what ConnectWise does in contracts. Contracts are basically our reoccurring invoices in ConnectWise. So right. I think it's getting used to the use cases and what the purpose of the contract. So basically just saying that, yes, I mean, right now, this is almost like what you're seeing on this screen is like, you just talked to this person and you're almost like putting in like sales lead information. And you can also see that none of this is required. But once you kind of get through this part, I can show you a little bit more of the use case of why you can leverage contracts so highly within the system. So like for this part, like I said, I think it's just kind of a way to be flexible in regards to like, hey, I think I'm not really sure about this. This is kind of just way to keep notes and that kind of thing on this customer. And then this start and end date is really interesting as well. And I can kind of hop into that. But so from here, again, you can continue to add notes. Maybe you're kind of in communication going back and forth on what you want to include, what you don't want to include, that kind of thing. This middle column where it says actual contract in here, I think in my opinion, the most important parts here is if you do sign an annual contract, for example, that end date becomes really important when you start creating reoccurring invoices, mostly because you can attach this contract to a reoccurring invoice and have the system automatically create a ticket for you before that contract expires, allowing you to make sure that nothing ever goes out of contract or you're not all of a sudden surprised when, they're not paying their bills. So the end date's important.
Sorry, let me interject real quick, Crystal, I apologize. That end date can be super, super important if you write contracts of varying lengths and you need to remember to go and make sure that they renew before they start shopping you. So 90 days out or 120 days out, you need to say, okay, I've got 4 contracts coming up for renewal. I need to make sure. Now, hopefully you're doing QBRs, you're out there, you're talking to your clients, you're maintaining, good relationship. But at a minimum, 90 days out, you should get alerted and it reminds you, okay, I need to go see so-and-so. We need to review the contract. I need to adjust and see if they've grown, if they've, whatever their new needs are, and we need to get this re-signed, because I will tell you from experience, if you do not chase these people down prior to a contract expiration, they remember when they signed it and they know what the expiration date is, right? And no different than any of us who have ever canceled AT&T, you're just waiting for that date. Not even because you don't like it, but because you found a cheaper product or whatever. So if you as the MSP don't know when this is coming up, you'll get these beautiful little emails that say, hey, this is our last month. You guys have been great. We're just going a different direction. And then you go to look at this date that you should have recorded and you think, oh, why did I write this contract 3 years ago and not make any note of it? So super important if you write very variable length contracts.
I like it. So I also like that I can add like reminders and emails, files, notes to this. So I just want to clarify. So in the Autotask and ConnectWise world, you've got your contract or your agreement, depending, right? And this would basically say, here's how much I charge them. Here's all the devices that are covered. Here's what I charge them for overages. These are the override prices if I'm giving them discounted pricing on certain services or products or whatever. So is that kind of what all this is doing here?
Yes and no. Go ahead, Ross.
Well, so I will say this, the big reason we use contracts, varying types of contracts, is because of the pricing module here. So it allows me to stipulate for, let's say, platinum level customers, right? And then there's the checkbox somewhere on here that you saw applies to all tickets. This makes sure that at the end of the month, when you go to bill the 5,000 or 6,000 tickets that you've been through, you don't have to do this overwhelming process of trying to figure out what is owed to you, right? This automatically allows us to stipulate what the labor rates are, whether or not we charge this customer for labor, whether or not we charge this customer for trip charges, whether or not they pay for this type of product that we may have installed or this type of repair that we may have done. That is why contracts in that regard are very expensive, because when it does come time to do that end of the month legwork with your billables, this can save you all that time if you set this up properly. So yes, kind of like you were mentioning, the overrides and all that, that is super important to set up when you're adding these customers.
Very cool. But this is not actually creating the invoice.
No.
Okay. So, and I see here like status is currently opportunity, and I see one lost. So contract, this is like an opportunity in Datto and ConnectWise.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe you should just rename these so that way everyone knows what they are.
That's not confusing. Yeah, I hear you. I think that it's interesting because we've heard kind of different requests on what to add or take away or change in this section. Same with leads, and so I think it's definitely on the roadmap for a revamp for sure. It could be more clear.
Okay. So
I kind of enjoy the purple cow feel.
So once I were to mark this as 1, what happens?
It just changes the status. Like if you're looking at, I think it just changes it on the actual main contracts page for you to filter through people that way. I don't think it really does anything on the back end.
So whether the status is opportunity or 1 or lost, it doesn't matter, and the contract actually does what it's supposed to do with the pricing?
Correct. Actually, yes. And on the reoccurring invoice, you have the ability to, like I said, attach that contract. So a lot of times, so you know how like you can, what you have up there right now on that custom pricing for basically policies there, you know, this is a very specific thing that if on a reoccurring invoice you were billing per endpoint and you had this contract attached to that reoccurring invoice, then of course it's going to pull your pricing for this customer. So it's not going to, the status of the contract really doesn't do much on the back end until I guess really ever. I think it's more of just a way for you to sort through your contracts as maybe you have a sales rep or something like that that's working through those. So it's used more for that, for you to organize. It doesn't have an effect on the actual, like if you have it right now still in opportunity and you have it set to applies to all tickets, it's still going to apply to all tickets no matter what status that contract is in.
Okay. Very cool. So I don't need to hit save because it just, I think, saves it.
Most things update on the fly.
I like it. And if, you know, for you, Ross, I bet it's real easy for you to make your contracts because everyone's the same vertical and you probably do a lot of similar things for all your clients. So you just open one up and hit clone and then update a couple things for the customer details.
That's it. 99% of the time they sign our top tier agreement, and that's how everything is formatted thereafter.
Cool.
The only stipulation, that's why I mentioned the multi-year thing. Some of the larger entities will want to do multi-year deals and try to cut like a pricing, try to cut like a pricing deal, and that, for that, we'll sign a 3-year deal if you drop our price by, $100 a month or whatever. That's why I mentioned the expiration, because everyone else is month to month, but then you have one that wants to sign a long-term deal. You want to make sure that you're following up and touching base with them prior to make sure that they plan on re-signing. That way, where your revenue's at and what your year looks like. So,
quick question, Ross. Speaking of that, how often do you communicate with your customer? If they're like on an annual contract, for example, how often do you communicate and touch base with them just on a regular basis?
3 times a day.
I would say that on average, at a minimum, well, okay, so that's not really a fair question, because marketing and sales does tech tip cards. We do a newsletter. We do, emails. So they're always getting all of that, as far as branding goes. So that's like once you've been sold, you're getting all of that every month. Now, from the operations side of the house, I'm going to lean into your offer there. Yeah, I've used the mailer module to reach out, especially recently. But no, we at least every 30 to 60 days, you'll probably hear something specifically from us. It's a little easier now than it used to be. I used to hand sign several hundred letters a month if we were doing something like that, because I think that's important. But with the mailer module now, I've been able to do several kind of quick fire. Hey, it's a Tuesday afternoon. I think this is really important here, and just hit everybody. But I think that you would be, that it would be rare if any client went 30 or 60 days without hearing directly from me.
Are you talking about snail mail, mailer, or email?
No, the mailer module. I'm talking about the email mailer module in Syncro. I mean, I don't know, Crystal, actually, can you use that for snail mail? I know you guys do snail mail, but.
Yeah, you actually can do snail mail through the mailer. And then now with our Twilio integration, you can actually set up the Twilio integration now and send text messages via mailer. And honestly, I I wasn't even prompting that, but I like it. The main thing I was just thinking about, just because we're talking about, how you can leverage Syncro to really help your business and that kind of thing. I just think one of the main tips that I've seen just a lot everywhere is just the ability to communicate with your customer in any way, at any time, and however really you see fit, whatever is best for you and your company. I just thinking just long-term communication with your customers when we're talking about contracts and long-term contracts and that kind of thing. I think it's really, really important. And yes, we have mailer. You can send out mass things very, very easily. We have broadcast messages. We now have chat. So it makes it just as easy as possible to communicate with your customer. And I think that's incredibly important. Especially once you do attain those customers, to make them feel like you don't just sell them and then you're gone.
Disappear. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not doing, as a young MSP or old MSP, if you're not doing QBRs, if you're not doing reporting on a regular basis, it's easy for people to forget why they're paying you, especially if you're really good. That's the irony of being a good MSP, right? If you're really good at your job and they never have any problems and barely have to call you, I mean, we all know the old joke, but it's, what do I pay you guys for? Because you don't ever have any problems. That's why you pay us. You don't see all the stuff we fix while, you guys are doing your regular everyday work and not paying attention to your technology at all. But I think one of the things that I was sitting here thinking about, Crystal, you guys have added asset aging reports and asset inventory reports and all that. We've used those pretty heavily in customer communications to just kind of keep them up to speed with where they're at technology-wise, maybe some areas that they need to focus on when they're building out their budget for the coming quarter or for the coming year. A lot of companies will be rolling over their fiscal year come October. We tend to get pretty heavy with reporting in that regard. Some of the automated reporting is really is really powerful too. If you're a young MSP and if you're the tech, the administrative business side of this is probably not your strong suit, but also probably not something you enjoy doing that much. But if you take the time to automate it, then it makes that part of it that much easier. Every time I find a report that I love, I immediately set up automation because, I send it to the clients that I want to see it, the ones that I want to see. I have it emailed to me every week, or however long or however often I want to see it. And then just to shut myself up, I think that the big bonus here is we've been with Syncro almost since the beginning, and there's a ton of features that are out now that I just asked for, and now they're there. And I mean, there's some very specific things that I won't get real granular on, but there's some very specific things with estimates and invoicing and PDF formats and all sorts of stuff that I've asked to be put on the roadmap that now they're exactly how I want them. And that's a totally different business to business relationship than I ever had with one of the big boys. And not to knock, like you said, Datto, I mean, they're awesome. They've got a ton of money and a ton of development capital and a ton of great products. But if you want a company that you can actually talk to and actually get things tailored and tweaked for you, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't check it out. And I'll say, like you said earlier, Syncro doesn't owe me anything. Syncro doesn't give me anything. Crystal asked me to be here and I'm here. I love this product. We came here because I care about our business and I thought that this would help us to grow. And full disclosure, Crystal, I won't give you guys all the credit, but we're 50% larger than we were when we moved. So, and
that's really awesome.
A pretty good portion of it was because the software got better. Like I said, I won't give all the credit to Syncro. I don't want to sound like a fanboy, but if your tools work, it's amazing how much work you can get done when you're not doing things that were wasting your time before. So spend the time to pick a good PSA and RMM because like you were alluding to earlier, it is worth it.
So looking at my notifications here, I saw I had 21 notifications next to my name. Alert. It has a notification that it actually installed the agent, which I like. So with other RMMs, I didn't really feel like it was obvious to me when devices got added. So I like that they've made it much more obvious here.
The alerting, did you guys go through the alerting module?
No.
Because that's pretty
really,
heavy
no.
too.
I was poking through it a little bit just now. So like I'm looking at the logs and I see like the Logitech Options Manager crashed for two different people, two different computers. And then one asshole decided he wanted to install Sonos on a work computer. So, and then I decided all right, well, what version of Logitech Options is out there? Because I see 8.10 and 8.0, and my luck, the latest version's like 11.4 or something, so we're actually not too bad. It's 8.20 is the latest. So I'm going to look and see about automating the update for Logitech Options. I'll see if it's in chocolatey first, because I like when something else can just do it for me. But otherwise, I haven't really had too many alerts because now they're, someone's laptop's offline. Like, I don't care.
Well, actually, and I misspoke. I wasn't actually talking about alerts. I was talking about, is it notifications, Crystal? Is that the options page I'm thinking of?
Notification center, because I think where you're going, you've got like your notifications here, but you can set up different ways. Like if you want to be notified if an asset was installed, you can then choose how you want to be notified. You can get an email. You could, if you use Slack or Teams or something like that, you can have it post there. And
right.
So there's a lot you can do there.
That's why I mentioned it, because for different, for managers, for C-level people, for techs, we have everything is basically individualized and set up for them to be alerted to things that matter. So I don't care if an asset gets installed or if something is offline, but my systems engineers or my weekend watch or my night guy, like all of those different things are configurable to a pretty granular level, and you can set those. There's a ton of options when you open up that notifications page. So that's really important too, because you want to know about the things that are important, and you want to make sure that you're not getting distracted by things that aren't important. You may not want to know every time a spooler is restarted. I mean, you can pull a monthly report if you want to, but you probably don't want to see an alert every time that happens. But if you do want to know every time an invoice is created or somebody pays a bill through the customer portal, or an estimate gets sent out, or a ticket came in, with a critical, assignment or something, then you can choose to decide all of those things individually, and that's pretty unique too. I remember having some of this capability in Autotask, but I don't think that it was this detailed, because I pretty much remember, like, we were excited, oh cool, text alerts, but this allows you to pick a lot.
This is really awesome.
Yeah,
really awesome.
So like some stuff I do in-app notifications, and I don't want to see it on my phone or in my email. Someone pays a bill and I'm sitting here in the office, I get an in-app notify. Cool, I see it, awesome. I'll remember that for when I pull reports at the end of the week, but I don't want it popping up on my phone or getting an email about it. But some stuff I do. If the server goes offline at 1 a.m., then my systems engineer will get an email and a text, because I want him to know. So this is a really powerful part of it too, that if you're focused pretty heavily on hitting those SLAs and providing that consistent customer service, that you're you need to spend some time going through here carefully, line by line, and making sure that you set up in a way that that fits really well with that contract if you have it.
And I just want to clarify, I see mobile push notification. Is there a Syncro app for my iPhone?
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. I will be looking that up immediately. SYNCRO, and it automatically corrected it to Synchrony Bank. I hate when it does that. All right, so I'm logging in to the Syncro app here on my phone.
Mm-hmm. We just had a few recent updates to the mobile app, just the organization of adding some things to the RMM, which has been nice, where you get actual real-time RMM alerts. You can view those, you can view assets. So we've been adding a lot of things to the mobile app just as of late. Are you going to share your phone screen, Steve?
I'm trying to, but it's arguing with me. Now, to be fair, I am that guy. I'm running the iOS 14 beta.
Hmm.
Okay. Now I have to know my password? Oh.
Yep.
And now it wants a code. So, Ross, how do you feel about two-factor authentication?
Emotionally or from a professional standpoint?
Emotionally.
Emotionally, it irritates me every second of my life because I have to use it probably 150 times every day. But I understand certainly the absolute necessity of two-factor. I'm a big fan of two-factor that doesn't have to do with biometrics, because biometrics scares the heck out of me. Once somebody steals the hash for your fingerprint or your face, that's pretty much it. You're screwed. So I'm not a big biometric two-factor fan. I would rather rely on some authenticator app for the time being. So that's my soapbox on that.
That's fair. Tap anywhere to unlock. Okay. So that's actually pretty cool. And it's even easier to work through than the desktop version, because I had to click something to open up a new window just to see this error log. Not a fan of that, Crystal.
Noted.
All right, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of updates here, and there's actually quite a bit planned as well.
One of the big things that we currently use the app for, field technicians do a lot of time tracking and note taking in the app, just because on the fly when you're laying under a desk or you're working on a tower, it's easy to whip out the phone, make notes as you're fixing things, and also track in office time. A lot of MSPs do a pretty poor job of basic metrics tracking, and we preach pretty heavily on making sure that you record what you're doing, when you're doing it, why you're doing it. As you grow, the amount of time you're spending on individual clients and individual problems becomes really huge when you're doing metric-based, performance reviews.
I just love that this computer's offline. This is the computer we're talking on.
Your Mac? How have you found the Mac beta so far?
Well, when it
Aside
functions. Said when it functions. Honestly, yeah. Crystal, underwhelming.
Yeah.
Underwhelming. The chat feature, I would say I would want to work to be able to, do system updates, or I don't even think MCSoft has a Mac AV, but to be able to push out a Mac AV, I know Bitdefender does, but now we're talking using Bitdefender's gravity zone solution. I assume whenever
yes.
you have somebody using Bitdefender, it's gravity zone. I like that MCSoft is right there in the dashboard. Ross, what AV are you guys using?
We've been Sentinel-1 for a long time.
I was actually going to say, I bet you guys are using something, a little more rock solid than MCSoft or even Bitdefender. It would be cool if you guys had an integration with SentinelOne that were built in. That other RMM tool that starts with S, they have it. So I'm sure that you guys could pull it off.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think we get requests for other antivirus every day. I don't think that there's anything on like the near future roadmap, but I wouldn't count any of those integrations out because we do get that request quite often.
I just yesterday had a recording with Mission Control.
Oh yeah.
So I was able to pull some teeth, and Jason from Mission Control made it sound like they're looking to see if an integration could work with Syncro. He was unwilling to give me any type of time frame or anything like that as to when an integration would function. Crazy how people are so non-committal when the talks have literally just began. But I would be really excited to see you guys have a NOC help desk service that integrates with your tool. I think that would be awesome. And the fact that you've got an app for the phone tells me that you've got an API that's able to talk to a lot of this stuff, which is what they would need.
Oh yeah, and we just updated our API huge, adding different tokens, and you can like add different security permissions. So it's really incredible. Actually, we just made it 10 times easier for third-party tools to integrate with us, which is awesome.
So with you guys upgrading the API, is that going to make it to where they technically wouldn't need to reach out to you to start a conversation to get a ball rolling? Could a company hypothetically just work with your API and make something work?
Yeah. In fact, it's happened where we find out about an integration well after it's been built. We didn't really know about it. So yes, it happens.
What was it?
No, it's funny. I think it's I think it was actually, was it SI Portal? I think it was SI Portal.
Oh.
I think names, but they built the integration. It's not in our app center, but I think it's in theirs.
So that's interesting. So are there other integrations that aren't in your app center then?
Most of the ones that, actually all of the ones that we've marketed, they're in the app center, but there has been other integrations built, like Ross uses help desk buttons. That integration has been built and they built it. And that is not currently in our app center. But those are pretty few and far between.
I know some more MSPs getting those. So in my personal opinion, anything that integrates with Syncro should be listed in your app center. So why isn't help desk buttons listed there?
Well, I know that we've been talking to them. It's fairly new, and I know that they're continuing to build it out. And so it might be something that we're just waiting for it to be, at a certain thing. It could be anything like that. I know that Ian's the one that's kind of in talks with everybody that we integrate with.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that could update soon.
Okay. And I'm trying to take the Apple approach where, let's make this as stupid simple as possible for your Syncro's customers. And that would be, guys like Ross as the customer, where I think anything and everything that integrates with Syncro, whether you made it, they made it, whatever, I think should be listed in your app center. I know you've got some other things listed in there as beta. So if the help desk buttons is not too far along, and could be problematic, just toss a little beta tag on there and put it in the integrations page. That's my opinion. But hey, who am I? All right, guys. Hey, it's holy cow. Has it really been almost 2 hours?
I'm a fun guy to talk to. That happens sometimes.
Ross, you are a fun guy, man. I can tell you and I would be good friends if different situation. If we were close enough, we could get together at a bar without masks on.
Just not a heroes. I couldn't remember the name of it. That was going to be such a well-timed.
Mr. Hero, yeah. I don't want to talk about it, Ross.
Oh,
Mr. Hero, man.
That was a missed opportunity. I'm going to regret that.
It really was. It really was. You are. It's okay. It's okay. I'll give you a C for the attempt.
Yeah, I'll take it.
You got a good hearty chuckle out of Crystal, so. All right.
Well, thanks for inviting me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming, Ross. I really appreciate all of your insight on this stuff. It sounds like before I get to this next video that we do, Crystal, I'm going to have to spend some time not only making sure I can make money, but that I can automate all of the things that I do.
Yes.
So I apparently have a long list of things to accomplish now. All right, guys. You have yourselves a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.